Hi everyone, I'm Nicola Brady. I'm General Secretary of the Irish Council of Churches, and I'm really grateful to Father Martin for the opportunity to share a thought for the day with you around Pentecost. The Pentecost story is one that really speaks to me in the work that I'm doing at present, where I'm trying to support our member churches to respond together to the challenges arising from COVID-19 and plan for the future in the midst of so much uncertainty. The Pentecost story, of course, is one that tells of the journey from fear into hope, and it has such powerful resonances for what we're living through at present as individuals, as local church communities, and as the wider society. And so for me, in terms of our looking to the future, that raises two main questions. And the first one is, how do we support people on that journey out of fear? And I think first and foremost, the best way to do that is by reassuring people that fear and anxiety are normal responses to the kinds of troubling and uncertain circumstances that we've been living through. As a society, we have tended to confuse denial with resilience and sent signals to people that it's not okay to open up about our mental health struggles, that somehow bottling things up is the best way of coping. Thankfully, that has been changing in recent years, and lots of people across all sectors of society have shown really important leadership in that regard, including many people in the church. But we still have a long way to go. And as we look at the mental health impact of COVID-19 on so many people and so many different walks of life, we are really going to need to have informed community responses in our local churches and across all sectors of society if we're going to avoid really devastating, lasting consequences. And then for our local church communities, a really important contribution I think we can make in that regard is simply by listening. If we think of the ways that we've been communicating at this time, so much has moved across into the digital space, including my own work. And what I've noticed is that where prior to the outbreak of COVID-19, so much of what I did was based around getting people in a room, getting people around a table to dialogue about particular issues. Now it's all being done via Zoom, and to a large extent, now that I've figured out how to actually work Zoom and manage risk in that space, it works reasonably well. We have more meetings, they are shorter, they're more focused, we do a lot more preparation in advance, but it's very focused on speaking, preparing what you want to say and making your contribution. The listening, responding, reacting part is much more difficult. You don't get the same non-verbal cues. It's harder to pick up on people's body language. But critically, what our members are already saying after a relatively short period of time is that they really miss the informal chats over coffee, just those opportunities to share stories outside a formal meeting agenda and to catch up with people and see how they're doing. So if we extend that out into a wider societal context and we think about as well in our church communities how we've been engaging with people at this time, so much of it has been thinking about the messages that we want to put out there. Just out of necessity, it's the limitations of where we are, and limitations that have been very painful to clergy and lay leaders in terms of their pastoral care. But it has left a real gap in terms of the opportunities for listening, even when people have been phoning parishioners and having befriending initiatives. We're still really feeling the loss of opportunities, like being able to call around and sit in someone's kitchen and have a cup of tea, or have them sit beside you in the church and share in prayer. So there's a significant gap there that I think we need to be ready to respond to. And then the second question, as we move away from fear and towards hope, is how do we make that hope lasting for people? And I think there are a number of ways that as churches we can contribute to this for the wider society. First of all, by learning and communicating the lessons of this time. We've seen that our local community resilience is dependent on our ability to care for the weakest among us. And so that points up some failures in past policy, some gaps in community support. And we really need to learn those lessons now and close them for the future. And that in itself will give hope that the most vulnerable will be better protected. We need to really embed and nurture that spirit of solidarity that inspired our initial responses